have seen the torch of freedom pass from hand to yearning hand, and the vision of our fathers spread hope throughout this land, as the dreams some fought and died for in my heart becomes my own. I will strive to keep her promise, America, my home. America, America, may God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my home. From the shorelines to the prairies, to the cities great and small, we have reaped the fruits of justice and liberty for all.
So with deep appreciation for the blessings of freedom that we know in this wonderful land of ours, I'm Dr. George Simon, welcoming you to another edition of Character Matters. This is the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we face and that affects so many aspects of our daily lives, from our interpersonal relationships, our marriages, our community relations, our politics, our business affairs. Every single aspect of our lives is touched by the character crisis that we face. And this is what I have written about for the past 30 years of my professional career. You can read all about my views on these things, and maybe even a little bit about some of the thoughts I have about what it will take to set things right. In my books, In Sheep's Clothing, Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People, the international bestseller on recognizing covertly aggressive personality types and how to deal with them more effectively and empower yourself. And then my book, Character Disturbance, The Phenomenon of Our Age, the book that explains all of the various disturbed characters that you might encounter in your life and maybe even hook up with, from your garden variety narcissists to your malignant narcissists to antisocial types, maybe even to psychopathic types, all the folks that you're likely to encounter who will make your lives miserable. You can find in Character Disturbance, and you can also find information in there about how to not only empower yourself, but what to look for in the way of help when you go seeking it. And then my book for the Christian faith community, The Judas Syndrome, about how genuine faith can truly save. And lastly, my book with Dr. Kathy Armistead, How Did We End Up Here? The Relationship Partners Survival Guide to getting along in this character-disturbed world of ours, how to understand what perhaps happened in that crazy-making relationship, and how to help ensure that you don't get hoodwinked again or enter into a bad situation again. And then my book in progress, soon to be released. I'll have more information about that soon. The 10 Commandments of Character, again with Dr. Armistead, How to Lead a Significant Life. And if you want to join the conversation tonight, the number to call is 501-258-8326. That's 501-258-8326. I'll be happy to take your call. We have an agenda tonight once again. We've been talking about narcissism and malignant narcissism in particular. We're going to be doing that again tonight. I also want to invite folks to tune in to my blog, pay a visit over to drgeorgesimon.com or manipulative-people.com. Either URL will take you to the same place, and avail yourself of the hundreds of articles and the wonderful commentaries by all the folks who regularly read and respond to the articles. Please avail yourself of those articles and the commentaries. I see we have a call coming in. I'm going to go ahead and accept it. Hello and welcome to Character Matters. Hello.
Are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm calling in to have some questions for Dr. Simon.
Okay. I'm right here. You might want
listening to the radio.
Yeah, you might want to turn your radio down. Yes.
Well, I could absolutely do that. Dr. Simon, thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I thought you were a call screener.
No, I wish our budget were that high.
Okay, well, let me get down to the basics, to the point of my call.
Okay.
I'm calling because my wife and I have both read your books. We've read In Sheep's Clothing, and we've read, I got it right here in front of me, How Did We End Up Here?
Uh-huh.
And we've come to the conclusion, and this may shock you a little bit, I believe that I am that wolf in sheep's clothing. I am that person who has used impression management, and I'm looking for somebody here in my geographic area that I can go to as opposed to going to a traditional therapist to work on this. And this is really dire. My wife and I have been married over 40 years. This has been going on a long time. She has endured this abuse so long. And you know, I'm open and ready and willing to do what it takes.
Well, you know, I so appreciate your call, and if I may take some liberties here, if I may have your permission, I just want to say that for some reason, over the last 5 or 6 years, I have been getting more emails and more calls and more letters saying something just like you just said from more individuals who have come to that point in their life than I can remember ever getting, say, in the last 25 years. It's been incredible what's been happening lately. And so, first of all, I commend you. And secondly, I want to say there is help out there. I wish I could steer you to a specific direction. When I'm doing workshops, as a matter of fact, I mention this very thing at every workshop I do. And when I do workshops, I ask folks who have attended the seminars and who understand the proper approach, if they want me to refer individuals to them, like yourself, to email me. I give them a channel to do that and let me know. And to date, I'm sad to say that despite the hundreds of attendees at my workshops and despite all the positive accolades that they give, I have only a handful of folks that indicated that they thought they had both the sufficient knowledge base and orientation and professional and personal wherewithal to actually do that kind of work with someone like yourself who really wants to make some life changes. So I wish I had ready names at at my disposal. Can you tell me at least what area you're in?
Sure. I'm in central Indiana.
You're in central Indiana. Well, you know, I was just in Indianapolis about 2 months ago.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, and actually, for the second time in 4 months, I was there doing training. And the second time, the attendance was not as overpacked as the first time, but 4 months prior to that, we had standing room only. And of all those attendees, I haven't yet had one person email me to say that they would like me to keep them on file for referral purposes. So I wish I could do that, but I can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
Okay. Well, then, since I've got you on the phone, here's where I'm having some trouble getting the rubber to meet the road.
Okay.
With my wife, and that is contrition.
Yeah.
So, I can admit my wrongdoing. I'm working very hard to fix and correct those things. She's not feeling the contrition is there.
Wow. Contrition is expressed really in that work of repair. And for the benefit of folks who might not understand what you're talking about, obviously you do because you've read the book, but some folks might not listening to this. I talk in my books about the difference between regret, remorse, and contrition. And contrition goes beyond remorse. It goes beyond feeling bad about what you did. Contrition has to do with hurting precisely for the hurt that you caused somebody else. In other words, knowing that they hurt is what's hurting you. And that's what prompts the work of repair, because you don't want the other person to hurt anymore. And you don't especially want them to hurt anymore at your hands. So that's what the work of repair is all about. So are you saying that she doesn't see the contrition, or maybe are you saying perhaps that she's simply not yet ready to forgive because perhaps she's been hurt so many times or so badly in the past?
That's a great question, and possibly the second is as true as the first. And speaking for myself, because that's all I can speak for. You talk about feeling hurt for that person.
Yeah.
But I find myself, and this is really soul bearing for me, but I find myself being more concerned about what am I feeling? What do I look like? Do I look like I'm doing the right thing? You see where I'm at?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, you just answered your own question, didn't you?
Well, did I?
Yeah.
Interpret that for me. What did I just tell you?
This is what another person can sense. You see, if it's still all about you, can you not see how she's having a hard time forgiving?
Right. Yeah.
So there you go. It sounds like you individually, or even you as a couple, might be a candidate. You might be a candidate for one of the consultations I offer. If you contact me through the back channel, through my blog, there's a contact feature on the blog where it says contact Dr. Simon. You can do that, and we can discuss whether or not you might be a candidate for that, and we'll see. I'm going to stop touring the 2nd of June of this year. I'm going to stop active touring. I've been on the road 3 weeks a month, every month for the past year and a half, and I'm frankly quite worn out. So I'm going to go back into semi-retirement here for the 3rd time. I hope this will be the charm this summer, and so things will ease up. And I'm filling slots now for consultations, but I still have some open ones after the middle of June. And it sounds like that's at least a possibility. I don't want to commit to that because I don't know enough about your situation.
Okay, so there's a process for getting qualified. I did see on your blog site that was an opportunity.
Yeah, because the consultations are not therapy per se. They're designed to help deepen folks' awareness about the principles I write about and how to put those things into practice. So instead of being therapy per se, it's more kind of a leadership kind of coaching thing whereby you take those principles that are advocated in the book and you look. You learn more deeply how to put them into practice, and really, frankly, the therapy is in what you do. The therapy turns out to be in the new strategies that you try out and the benefits you get from learning from that experience, and that's frankly cheaper than therapy. So
but yeah, putting it into practice is the key. I understand.
yeah.
I understand. Okay, well, I'll go to the blog site and I'll go through the process and see what I can get done there.
Great. And really, sincerely, I appreciate your call, because I can't tell you, frankly, it's been really edifying to me, as well as surprising, that because as you can imagine, most of the time people buying my books are aggrieved relationship partners who are trying to figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
But increasingly, I'm hearing from people just like yourself. This has given me a great deal of hope, and it should give you hope too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Just the very fact that you're making the call and expressing this kind of interest is a very good sign.
Well, don't get too big of a head, because I was handed this book. Okay.
Oh, well, yeah, things happen in strange ways sometimes.
They do.
But, yeah,
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But me being open and reading and saying this is different. I've read a lot of books and I've been to a lot of therapy, and you get it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
That's the bottom line.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, Dr. Simon. Well, thank you. I'll go to the website and go through that process.
All right. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Wow, what a great call. What a great call. I mentioned this at the workshops that I was doing just this past week. And frankly, some of the attendees did not even believe it. And there you go. You have an unsolicited call, first call of the hour, and it's a person validating what I've been telling the therapists that I've been training all along. And that is that I think the tide is turning with this character issue. I think it really is. I think that folks come to a point in their life sometimes where, as they say in the 12-step programs, they say you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And sometimes it takes being confronted. And what the caller was saying is that he had this book placed in his hands, and he was in fact confronted about some behaviors, and he's finally having to come to terms with the fact that some of the stuff is true. And when that happens, it can be the beginning of a personal revolution. It can really be the beginnings of a personal revolution and a personal transformation. And that's perhaps one of the best indicators right there of a person's motivation to change. So can't thank the caller enough for the call. And if there's a similar caller out there who has been hesitant in the past to call, now's your chance. You see, you're not alone. If you have a similar statement you want to make, or maybe not, maybe you have something else entirely different you want to talk about, give us a call at 501-258-8326. That's 501-258-8326, and I'll be happy to take your call. Well, I wanted to do some more talking today about narcissism. I just posted an article, not on narcissism per se, but I posted an article. Actually, it was Saturday, because normally my new articles post on Friday afternoon. But on Friday afternoon, because I had such a heavy training schedule and had no chance to even compose the article, on Friday afternoon I was in the air, in an airplane, doing a white knuckle thing as we were hitting clear air turbulence the whole time. And there was no chance to post the article until Saturday. But I posted an article on Saturday on the blog at manipulative-people.com or drgeorgesimon.com about character disturbances and character disorders. There's a difference between a character disturbance and having a full-fledged character disorder. And I talked about the spectrum of character disturbance and how all of us, struggle with certain problematic personality or character traits. Personality being somewhat different from character in that character is that moral side of our personality. So we all have personality traits of one type or another. And our character is reflected in how the way we prefer to think about things and deal with things and deal with others in our lives, how that reflects our personal ethics or our moral groundedness. And so I was pointing out in these articles that we are dealing with a spectrum phenomenon of both quality and degree when we're talking about character disturbance. So a person can be relatively character disturbed as opposed to being what we usually classically say as neurotic, which basically means an overactive conscience. An overactive conscience is what makes a person neurotic. That's an overly simplistic definition, but it will do. It's so largely enough true that it suffices as a definition. And on the other side of the spectrum, you have people who don't quite have enough conscience development. And so they're relatively lacking in appropriate degrees of guilt and shame over the things that they do, the ways they prefer to cope in life. So, on the one hand, you have character disturbance, and on the other hand, you have neurosis. I read about this in my books and several articles. You'll find that. The other problem you have, however, is that character disturbance can rise to the level of a disorder if it's severe enough. And what I was writing about in the article this past Saturday on the blog is that we have traditionally thought about personality and character disorders as a way of seeing things and a way of doing things that is so extreme, so extraordinarily extreme, so inflexible, where the person knows nothing else and can exhibit no other type of behavior, or so deviant from the norm that it causes a whole lot of distress to the person themselves or to other people, or it gets in the way of their ability to function in life in a variety of spheres, whether occupationally, within their relationships, or whatever the case may be. And I was talking in this article, and I talk about this at my workshops too, that definition, that very definition of what constitutes a character disorder is in need of revision, given the nature of our times. And I make the point, especially with narcissism, that when you're talking about narcissism, how deviant from the norm is narcissism these days? Well, it's not deviant at all. It's not deviant at all. In fact, it's more commonplace. It is pretty much becoming the norm. So that one definition, one aspect of the definition is out the window. The other thing is that as far as how intense the manifestation of somebody's narcissism is, to make it a disorder, wow, our sensibilities and sensitivities about that have really changed. You know, our current president has clear narcissistic features in his personality. I don't mind saying that. A lot of people fault me for not being willing to say that he's dangerously mentally ill with a serious character disorder. The reason I'm not willing to say that, first of all, it's unethical, and I don't ever violate professional ethics. That's one reason. The other reason is that by definition, by the current accepted definitions, you know, this is a style that works for him, and it doesn't cause distress in his relationship. Now, it may cause distress to other people who don't share his viewpoints, don't share his politics, who may even be offended by his style. but it doesn't meet the criteria. And he doesn't pass on the inflexibility test either, because he's done some things that I know many more benign narcissistic inclined folks would never do. For example, just come right out and admit a change of heart or a mistake. It's unbelievable. I know many more polished, less offensive, less boorish, less brazen, less vulgar narcissists who would never admit a mistake. I'll give you an example. One of the things that I talk about in my workshops is a couple of the features of character disturbance, especially pathological lying. Lying for the sake of lying. Lying when the truth would do just fine. Not only that, lying when the truth might even do better. And, you know, many researchers and theoreticians have kind of scratched their head with that, wondering what kind of rational sense it made for somebody to lie even when the truth did just fine. And many of these theoreticians and researchers actually thought that this kind of behavior bordered on irrationality, bordered on some kind of insanity. As a matter of fact, one early researcher in the field, pioneer, looked at this kind of behavior and said it was a form of moral insanity. That's what he called it. But in fact, when people do this kind of egregious lying, what they're doing is rational in the sense that they're trying to maintain a favorable position with regard to impression management. In other words, they never want to be in that embarrassing one-down position where you have their number or where they appear to be in a less than superior position. Because all that really matters to them, all that matters in their whole life, it's their life script. All that really matters to them is that they have the one-up. That's all that matters to them. So they behave in this manner because they don't want you to have their number. They don't want you to have that position of advantage. So, it's true. The Vanity Fair articles and the Psychology Today articles and the Atlantic magazine articles, they had a lot of misquotes in there, which I'm not happy about. But they had a lot of things right, including the fact that I had all these archives of videos that I made during the campaign season, not just the major campaign season between the two candidates. Oh, I think we've got another call coming in here. Let me just see what this one is. Hello and welcome to Character Matters.
Oh, hello, Dr. Simon. I've got to turn this off so I can hear you. What I wanted to ask you, and I've been following your blog and everything, and the new topic that you just posted is just, I think they get better each week, and I think I just read a great one, and then I read another one. But
thank you. You're so kind. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. And it was very interesting. The one caller that you had previously, the gentleman that called in, that had said that in reading the book that he was able to look inward and see that he had a lot of those different, how should I say, traits, etc.
Yeah, this is happening. This is just unbelievable. This is happening more and more and more. It's really hard for me to believe, but it's happening. It's about the last 6 or 7 years. It's happened more times than I care to count. It's very heartening. I'm very happy to see what's been going on lately.
You know, and I've got a whole separate question, way off the topic compared to that one, but about that call, it was so unusual because I have found that the people that, and I'll just say basically all of them are narcissistic, psychopaths, sociopaths, whatever. Disordered individuals tend to have the problem of being narcissistic, that pride, that false pride. Mm-hmm. They don't they don't want to admit that they have, just say, even, a drinking problem. They have, I'm sorry, I hoard, I take too many things that I don't need, etc. And until we admit those things, our problem's not going to go away. But he was able to admit that, and I was just wondering from your perspective, and you just said that you're running into more people that are doing that. Why do you think that is? And from the perspective of a person that is, and I'm more neurotic and dealing with individuals, what can we do to help them see or bring the light to their eyes that we may see a change?
Okay, well, that's a great question. I hope you'll hang on for a little bit because I want to do a follow-up with you. But that's a fantastic...
and I do have that second question for you.
Okay, well, hang on then. What a fantastic question. First of all, what I think is going on that is helping this is I do think that within every human soul, there is a yearning for something in the way of a healthy, intimate relationship. Way down deep, most of us, right from our infancy, right from our very infancy, we just want to love and be loved. And this culture of ours and how it's biased us or failed to nurture us properly in how to conduct relationships has left so many people feeling empty. They get into midlife. They may be married 30, 35, 40 years. And they realize just how empty their lives are. And they're not happy. They're just not happy. And so they're looking for something. And their church hasn't given them the answer. The culture hasn't given them the answer. Their material comforts hasn't given them the answer. And they're hungry. And so then when they discover, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but when they discover something that seems to make sense of it all, maybe they read one of the books or whatever, and they discover that, it gives them some idea, some hope that maybe things can actually be different, because at least the first thing that occurs to them is just like the caller before said, hey, somebody seems to get it here. So that gives them a little bit of hope. So that's what I think is going on. And that's what I think.
Let me ask this question, though. Narcissists tend, though, to project their inner unfavorable feelings onto the other person.
Yeah, that's the classic way to see narcissism. And it couldn't be more in error. It couldn't possibly be more in error. That is the classical conceptualization of what narcissism is all about. And it is true for a certain kind of narcissism, the narcissism that in my books I call the more neurotic type, and that the literature these days calls the more vulnerable or compensatory type. It is true for that type of narcissism, but I have to tell you, in our day and age, that kind of narcissism is rare. And that's why those old models of looking at things don't apply. And that's also why people who go for help don't get it, because those old models are not meeting the problems of our time. They're not seeing the problem accurately enough, and therefore they can't intervene adequately enough.
Well, let me ask you too. Say for instance, and I deal with a lot of people that are narcissistic, and it took me a lot of years to realize the psychodynamics of all these different interworkings of things that are going on. Do you give them? I'm hesitant to give them, say, in sheep's clothing, which I think is cut and dry. It just says it all. Actually, is it a tool for them to look inward, or is it a tool for them to blame more?
Well, here, this is a great question too, because you see, in my workshops, I drill into the attendees two rhyming little phrases. The first one I drill into them is we want to try to get them to see because we think they don't see. And then we get worried about them picking up material where they would actually see something and then maybe use it to some untoward purpose. But what I drill into these therapists' heads is that they already do see. That's not the problem.
Okay.
What I tell them is a rhyming phrase that they can carry out. I'd say the problem is not that they don't see. The problem is they see but disagree. In other words, they know everything their partner has been trying to tell them, everything society has been trying to tell them. They know it like the back of their hand. The problem is, in their heart of hearts, they're still at odds with the principles of functioning that we're trying to advocate. It's not that they don't see. It's not that they don't see themselves. I'll give you a perfect example. A perfect example. Did you happen to watch during the campaign season on any of the news channels? Did you happen to watch the Al Smith charity dinner?
No. Wait. It may be. Is that roast that they do?
Yes, that they do pretty much every single election.
I generally don't watch TV, and I'll tell you, and I'll just briefly make this comment. In getting into the problems that we have in society today, I believe what the media pounds down to us in entertainment, TV, etc., is part of the problem of why we see so many character disordered people, because they think it's funny and it's okay.
Would you mind if I said a couple of amens to that?
Not at all.
Okay, amen. Okay.
But I watched that on YouTube. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right. So, in this dinner, Hillary gets up and she tosses her barbs. She tells her jokes, and they're pretty funny. And of course, he doesn't laugh very much. And then Trump gives up and he starts his routine. And a few of his barbs and a few of his jokes are funny. But there are some unwritten rules about how rank you get and how far you go. And
right.
It is the hallmark feature of a certain kind of narcissistic individual to pay no attention to those rules, whether they're written or unwritten.
Right.
Because there's just too big a sense of entitlement to do whatever you want to do. So he starts down this road that for most everybody in the audience and anybody watching on YouTube or watching on the screen is painful. And you say to yourself, oh my gosh, he's not really going to go down that path, is he? And then he does. And then you ask yourself the question, does he not see how that looks, how that reflects? And what you have to realize is that if you look closely at the YouTube video, he not only sees, because he keeps going, and with each encroachment into worse territory, he listens to the hush in the room. He listens even to the hisses and boos that start. He even witnesses people walking out, and then he shows that demeanor of, yeah, I see this, but it's not going to faze me. I'm going to keep going. And so what I say is they see but disagree, and it's not so much that they're not aware. The problem is they don't care. So they have all the awareness, all the insight, all the cognitive insight that you can imagine. The bigger problem is the sensitivity's not there. The caring's not there. There's not enough empathy. There's not enough conscience. There's not enough shame. There's not enough guilt. And therefore, there's not enough compunction about what they do. So when you ask the question about what can we do, is there anything we could do to help them see, that's not what's necessary. What's really necessary, whether it's in a relationship or whether it's within a therapeutic relationship, and this is what I drill into the minds of my attendees who are therapists that attend my workshops. We have to be the trainers in how to relate differently. It's like reparenting. We have to basically say to the person, hey, look, if you're going to have a relationship with me, here are the ground rules. Now, you think you can follow these rules? Because if you don't, we don't have a relationship. And what happens in that process is either the person is out the door, or if they have a mind to try out a different way of seeing things and doing things, the kind of insight that they gain is experiential. In other words, they might try every now and then doing some things a little differently. And they might actually experience how that pays off.
I'll tell you, Dr. Simon, in my case, I ended up divorcing mine, and I didn't learn all of these things that you have taught. And it's been years. I want to say about probably 8 years. And for me, maybe at this point in my life, if I knew what I knew now, I would approach it differently. But as being, say, a neurotic victim and actually having my own character disorders, and I think that's the good part of it, is I see these things that I need to change in myself and make that as a good. But in retrospect, to try to deal with these individuals is extremely, it almost like sucks the life out of you.
Yes.
And if I may, I will just give you one example. Mine did something so outrageous. It was like unbelievable you would do this. And they were in my face. I'm not afraid. And I said, go ahead, do it.
Oh, no.
And I was dead serious.
Oh,
and
no.
I think it took them off guard that they didn't create that fear factor. And they went and had one of these rages for 45 minutes. And the next day, they acted like nothing happened. And I said, wait a minute, something very serious happened. And their response was to me, do you think I should get down on my knees and beg your forgiveness?
And what did you say?
I looked at him in confusion because I wasn't as aware of what I know now. I said, I didn't say that. But to me now, then it all changed.
I'm not going to want to. I'm not going to want to put words in your mouth here, but this is what you describe is such an eloquent depiction of the kinds of craziness that goes on in these relationships.
Yes.
Trust me, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth here, but I'm trying to illustrate a conceptual point by putting some words in your mouth, okay? A response might have been, and believe me, I'm not saying you should have said this. Believe me, I'm just trying to illustrate something here, okay? A proper response to something like that is that a person like me, or a person like anybody, any person, would only want to remain in this relationship, would only want to have a relationship with you if you yourself felt the obligation to be down on your knees apologizing. Right. So it's not what I want. In other words, it's basically what you should have felt compelled to do if you had any decency of character about you. So
I think that's just the moment of truth in their mind for just one moment, because I'll just tell you the little bit rest of the story, Doctor, is that I believe they knew how bad it was.
Of course.
Thought they should have done, but within 10 seconds, when I said that, I didn't say that. I said, something serious happened here. Wait a second. We're going to have to talk about this. What are you talking about? Nothing happened. And I started to say a little bit, you're a liar, you're nuts, you're crazy. Mm-hmm. They redefined and were defining my reality. And that's when I decided to leave.
Yeah. Well, you probably did the right thing, but and you also make a point. You make a point. And you're tempted to think, therefore, that what they lack is awareness. And what I drill into my therapist attendees is that the bigger problem is not that they're not aware. They're aware to the degree that almost anybody can be aware of things. The big obstacle in the way has to do with how much they care. And so I say, it's not that they don't see, it's that they disagree. And it's not so much that they're not aware. The problem is they don't care. And until that empathy can be developed, and until that sense of shame can be developed to where it needs to be, there's no hope for the relationship.
Right. And how deep does that go? The second question that I was going to ask you is, over the years, what he's actually done is he's gone into seclusion, basically just shut off almost like the world from him, because if they don't agree with him, then everybody else is wrong, and then he just stays more and more and more and more to himself.
Yeah.
So that was the other question. Where are we going when somebody displays that type of behavior then?
Yeah. And this is unfortunate. This is unfortunately why so many folks like him have never gotten better when they have either been drug into, pressured into, or even sought themselves some counseling or therapy. Mm-hmm. The problem is that most clinicians don't want to help them grow up. They want them. They want to coach them into seeing things better when they already see, as opposed to instructing them in how to relate in a healthy way. They don't know how to relate in a healthy way because they're too deficient in both empathy and shame. They don't have the wherewithal. So that empathy has to be developed, that sense of shame. In other words, their character has to begin to matter to them. And I tell stories all the time at my workshops about those individuals that I had to confront and then just let go, and that who years later would just bring tears to my eyes because I would meet them in some venue, someplace unexpectedly, and they would indicate how many years it took for them to take some things to heart, but they finally did, and they turned their entire lives around, and they couldn't be more grateful, and they couldn't be especially more grateful for all the things that they realized that they would have been missing in life had they not bothered to invest in change, self-change.
Right. Right.
So,
can I ask you just real quick, and I know your time is going, I had looked on your website as far as the courses and the classes that you were presenting. I don't see that you have anything scheduled in the near future at all. Are you planning on doing more workshops?
Well, I am finishing up my heavy traveling on the 2nd of June, and then I'm going to take a breather. But I have promised the company that I work with that I will do perhaps a half a dozen or so workshops a year. That would be on the average of about one every 2 months in only large metro areas. So expect that there'll be some more things on the calendar. But don't expect the heavy schedule that's been there for the last year and a half.
I figured that. I'm waiting for your new book to come out.
Well, you're not the only one. My co-author is really chomping at the bit. And I'm my own worst enemy there because I want it to be. This is kind of my my final opus, so to speak. And I want it to be just right. It means a lot to me because, I call it the title is tentatively the 10 Commandments of Character: How to Lead a Significant Life. It's not just about raising kids. It's about helping all individuals at any point in life discover those life lessons that they simply have to master in order to lead a life of integrity. And it just means a lot to me that it be accurate, and that it be comprehensive and
Right.
really sufficiently informative, that not only will aggrieved relationship partners value it, but those individuals struggling who have finally come to a point in their life where they realize some things have just simply got to change. And that,
Right.
and
Right.
they'll find within it the resources they need to make themselves better people.
I'll tell you something, Dr. Simon. I have followed that particular topic that you have gone through, besides the other ones, and you started for this book. And I have to say, dealing with the individuals, character disordered individuals, it has enlightened my life, and it has helped me look inward and be able to accept the things that go on with them, be able to forgive them, live in the here and now, and make a life for myself rather than stay where the character disordered person is. And my life will be a work in progress. I've got so many flaws. I need to work on them, but I have to say it's done so much for me, just personally, that I don't think I would have been able to keep going if I didn't have it as a guide to help improve myself.
Oh, you're so kind. I tell you what, I have had the blessing of a lifetime with this career. First of all, something guided me in the first place to even begin this work, and then I have had the dual blessings. Yeah, I don't know of another therapist that can say this, but I've had the dual blessings of not only helping aggrieved relationship partners, folks struggling with that crazy making behavior, with that character disturbed person that was making them feel nuts, and causing them all kinds of pain. I've been blessed to help those people become more empowered by seeing things clearly, by learning how to handle themselves and learning how to empower themselves and to fashion for themselves a better life. And then on top of that, I've had the good fortune of encountering several folks who've come to that place in their life where they realize their character needs an awful lot of work, and that they've caused an awful lot of people in their life pain, and they're in that place in their life where they're actually sincerely wanting to grow and be a better person. I've had the blessing to help them figure out how to do just that. Now, I don't know how it gets any better than that.
It is about things, and it is about amens, and it is about them finding Jesus, and it is about humility.
Yeah. So I mean, I consider myself totally blessed beyond measure, and I mean that sincerely. And
I just really think we're blessed we have you, Dr.
Simon. Well, I think, you know what? The fact is, I think we're blessed that we have each other. Frankly,
yes.
My clients taught me. They taught me everything I know. They taught me everything I know. I learned some things in school, and it turned out that my clients knew better. So I threw out everything I knew in school, and I went with what they taught me. And it's been the career of a lifetime as a result of that.
I know you said that this was your last book in progress, but just one other thought. The blog that you put together, I mean, the years of information and the stories in it, did you ever just think of comprising and putting a lot of that together? Because
actually, I have, and I've had about 5 or 6 offers from different entities that proposed to do exactly that. And frankly, none of them just turned out to be the right kind of deal. There were some folks that clearly just wanted to try and make a buck, and were going to not do a fair job of mining, as you would say, all that material and putting it together in the proper way. So yes, I have thought about that a lot. Now, the truth is, I don't have it within me to do that anymore. I just I have to tell you this. I really need to do this semi-retirement.
You know what? I couldn't look at being an older person where I'm at. I'm over 60. That I would live a lifetime, and this is an adult child. People do not treat each other this way. I would rather live alone and be by myself than live like that. And I got to the point now where I'm downsizing. I'm getting rid of this and making it easier. But maybe we can pray that someone will come along and be able to see what you have. The gold mine, it's a diamond in the rough sitting there. There's so much knowledge and wisdom in that book from the writings of just yourself and from the people that have written.
Oh, don't I have the best commentators in the world? They share their experiences and their stories. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah.
Absolutely. It brings tears to your eyes. So you know what? God may bless us in that, because that's something that we really need in this world right now.
Yeah. Hey, if you're out there in the audience and you're hearing this, contact me through the blog. Yes, absolutely. Well, you're so sweet. I really appreciate your call. Thank you so much.
No, not at all. I feel privileged to talk to you, Doctor. And I'll just say, God bless you and keep up the work. And I just know that everybody else, we just love your work, and just be well and have a happy life. You've done so much for so many other people. We're just grateful, really grateful, Doctor. Thank you. You've taught us so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night. Wow, 2 fantastic calls tonight. And frankly, because within the I was going to go someplace before the second call, and frankly, where I was going to go is I was going to use as the example the Al Smith dinner. That's where I was going. So as it turns out, in this last call, there was an opportunity to get that in and to talk about just the very point that I was going to make. This is a definite God thing, folks. And I also want to say something about that. I also want to say that the nature of this program is going to be changing somewhat, and so is its theme song. Although I haven't yet at all thought about what might replace it. So far, the basic theme of the program has been that our country would be great again, not as our current president wants to make it great again, by doing all these things that simply makes a few wealthy, and gives us material wealth. But we'll be great again when we cherish the appropriate principles that bring us together as a community and make us strong in spirit. Instead of the patriotic piece, which I'm happy to say is, and I love it, the fact I'm letting folks know, contact me. It's getting into that season. We have Memorial Day, we have Flag Day, Independence Day, and I am getting all the time now requests for America My Home, and I love that. I don't want to poo-poo that, but we're going to be moving in a new direction with this program. We're going to be taking a broader view. We're going to be taking, frankly, a more spiritually evolved view. And now, notice I didn't say religious. We're not going to get specific to any particular religion. But, it is time not just for greater character awareness, but it is truly time. I do believe that we're on the cusp of a massive new spiritual awakening within not just our country, but within the world. And this program is going to move to being in the forefront on that in the next few weeks. So bear with us, stick with us. There'll be some changes. You'll see them evolve. Keep with us. Call in. I love hearing from you folks. You bring so much to the program with your examples and your stories and what you share. Visit my blog at manipulative-people.com and tune in again next week for another edition of Character Matters. I'm Dr. George Simon. Good night.